there's actually a sucking sound. And pushed it back up into the bladder. I have never gotten a drop. There's nothing left. It is pulling the fluid out with such force, it's not just draining, it's being sucked out. So it's going to be providing the ability to completely drain the bladder. And that is one of the biggest problems related to infections, is that the fluid that's left in your body, each molecule of bacteria doubles every 20 seconds. At the end of 24 hours, a molecule of bacteria will reach the count of 16 million. That's a major reason why you're getting infections, is the catheters are not emptying the body completely. You have residual in there, and you can't get it out. Taking your catheter up and back, you may pick up a little bit here or there, but effectively, it's there. And it's there waiting for the next time you can. Of course, that's one reason why some people, they encourage you to have 8 glasses of water each day. The purpose is to try and keep flushing flushing the urine out, so that hopefully reduce the amount of bacteria growth. But I have a fair amount of other stuff I had planned on showing, but we have 3 people here to talk about what they're here for. But this catheter is will be going for FDA approval within months. And actually, the FDA approval on catheters is quite simple in general and almost guaranteed. It's very little you have to do. They take your catheter and they grind it up and do studies on what chemicals were used. Of course, you give them your chemical formula. It's done by a company that the FDA has hired. And so all they do is they grind the catheter up to see what the chemicals are. They check your flow rate to see what the proper flow rate. They check the brain freezer. There's no bacteria. Your package is good for up to 3 years. The sterilization process is good for up to 3 years. And I'm trying to think, there was just like 4 things they look for. And once the FDA approved company has taken your product and done their testing, they merely send it to the FDA and say it passed. And it can be as quick as 60 days. It's actually more like 90 days because of the sterilization process takes 90 days. But they actually, we're not concerned about getting approved because there's just nothing there that they should have any objection to. And let me see. Oh, and I mentioned flow rate. This catheter, you're all familiar with catheter sizes. We have two models, the Slim and the Max. The Slim is intended to be the smallest, least of trauma and everything, although the max is not that much larger, but it has the ability to take out far more fluids faster. A 12 French max will match any 14 French catheter out there. It will actually take more fluids out than as much fluid out as the next size up. So the flow rate is spectacular, and the net result is virtually empty bladder each time you cath. And we expect that it's going to be a great advance for people who cath, and it should reduce the possibility of getting infections. I had some other stuff I'd like to show you, but I'll turn the floor over to the next group. Robert. And we are following here is municipal land. This will be one of the first places I'll come back and show to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Oh.
Z. Yes, I came up with the idea and worked on it for a few years. We have 4 patents.
control phase. What this means is we have 2 sets of pre-test visits that we're going to do, okay? And the reason we have 2 sets of pre-test visits is so that we can get an understanding of what your baseline variability might be. Sometimes spinal cord injury comes with other conditions. You might have spasticity, whether different factors can make a play on those things. So we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what your inherent variability might be, so that we can look at the pre to post changes and say, yes, these are from our intervention, or no, they could be just part of the variability of this particular patient. So during pre-test 1 and pre-test 2, there will be 2 visits for each portion of these. We used to have just 1 visit, but it kind of became overburdening to have all the functional tests done and then all the neurophys tests done in one day. And we just decided to separate those into 2 days. So we have 2 sessions. We allocate 4 to 6 hours of time for each of these. Most of the time it's more towards the 4 hours from the time you come in to the time you leave for both day 1 functional and day 2 neurophys. So then we do the same thing again 3 weeks later for our pre-test phase 2. Okay? The reason we have 3 weeks between these pre-test visits is because we've identified a 3-week intervention phase. Now, I bring that up with the caveat that there's 3 weeks, 15 visits, so you're thinking that's every day, right? 5 times a week for 3 weeks, that's 15 visits. But we don't have to go that many visits. We know that it's difficult for spinal cord injury patients to kind of be traveling every day to and from our clinic. So we at least look for twice a week. So the pre-test variability is pretty good for us to compare to the intervention phase itself. So during the intervention phase, we ask that patients come in at least twice a week. Optimally, it would be 3 times a week, so maybe like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type thing.
Just to add something. So the total number of visits is still going to be 15.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many times in a week you come.
Yep.
So your total entire duration of the intervention phase will vary according to how many times a week you can come and attend the session.
So if you were to follow an ideal path from beginning to end of the study, you were looking at 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there, and then 3 months. So we're looking at about 5 months of time from beginning to end. So the 3 months is a follow-up phase. You don't see us for 3 months. So from here to here, we're looking at about 2 to 3 months in time if we follow the ideal path. But most patients are with us for about more towards the 3-month mark, okay? Just from the time they start until the time they finish up that post-test. We will be allocating groups after pre-test 2, so you'll either be allocated to receive the active TDCS or the sham TDCS. Again, we won't know what group you're in, you won't know what group you're in. The device has been designed, it's made by Esoterics Medical. It's a clinical trial device, so all we do is type in a predetermined code with settings that we've sent to them, and it delivers what we need it to deliver. So once we get done with all the visits, so we get done with the 15 3-hour sessions, then we have our post-test, which mimics exactly what happened during pre-test, and then a 3-month follow-up. Any questions on anything? Yes?
I'm a little worried about ageism.
Ageism.
Yeah.
Okay.
You cut off the participation age at 7.
Yes, so we've determined 70 based on other studies that have been done in the past, and just other complications that we might see past 70. So that's why we had to cut it off at 70 years old. Now, we do have the ability to adjust our inclusion criteria, but we'd have to get those things approved by the IRB at our site and the DoD's Human Research Protection Office.
The other thing is, I was curious, I mean, I'm ineligible because I'm way over the participation age. But the other question I had was about any kind of earlier neurological issues.
Yeah, so we try to exclude for anything that would still be a current neurological disease that you might still have. Give me an example of the earlier neurological condition that you might be thinking of. Like we would exclude for carpal tunnel syndrome.
No, what I'm thinking of is that even, I'm 150, so I had a stroke about 70 years ago.
Okay. Yes.
By 1 out of 150.
So we would exclude for people that had strokes in the past just because we wouldn't know if the effects that we're seeing from TDCS are improving their spinal cord injury or if they're improving the stroke, right? So we want to make sure the disease state is in the purest of disease state as it can be, right? If that makes sense. We don't want it to have any confounding effects that might affect our data and further not help us to further the study down the road.
Okay, but I had this stroke.
Uh-huh.
Really about 50 years ago. And the issue that I have some visual issues that are staying. So that I was just curious.
Yeah, so because we're so early on in the study, if we were to start bringing in confounding variables into the study at this point, we might not get as pure an answer, right? So we want to make sure that we can, as purely as possible, state that either yes, the TDCS plus rehab does produce greater functional outcomes compared to sham TDCS and rehab for spinal cord injury population, right? We want to be able to say that first. Then maybe down the road, we might be able to expand our inclusion criteria to be a little bit more universal. But currently, we kind of have to stick to those standards because the ability to answer the question is becomes more and more difficult with the extra variables that you add in. And with the sample size population that we've chosen, we're looking for 44 patients across all 3 sites, which is a pretty decently large amount in this field. But it's still hard and sometimes difficult at a stats level to say, yes, this is better or this is worse, right? If you have more and more confounding variables on top of that. So that's kind of why we have to be as pure as we are now.
I would watch out for that, Lord. I really would.
Strict.
No, it's have a lot of judgment.
That's true. We have to be strict, and I'll use that one.
That's
Okay. Any other questions? I did bring brochures today with me, so if you wanted to give me a phone call to see if you might be eligible later on down the road, or at any time you can give me a call. It has some of a little bit more of the study details on there, and then I can also email you consent forms to give you more of the risks associated with what we're doing and kind of a little bit more of the details on that end too. So, thank you guys very much. Also, if anybody wants, if you're not going to take a brochure with you, this is our contact information here. If you wanted to write it down or log it in your phones, you can always put it in there and just call me directly without taking a brochure. I know sometimes folks don't like to carry around the paper with them either, so I'll leave that up there for a little bit until the next group comes up.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
I'm a great person, right? I'm an old lady who really wants to advocate for old people.
Yes.
This same technique, or the same intervention might be very useful for older people.
Yeah, you're right. There have been age studies done. Okay, there have been age studies done with the TMS itself, and with fatigue and things like that. But we have to make sure that we stay within the range that we've kind of set already. Unfortunately, we're kind of just constricted to that right now. We also have a lot more. So when it comes to function itself, we look for a distinguished difference between the biceps and the triceps. So we're looking for one muscle to be weaker than the other, right? So if your function is already high enough to a point where if you went to a physical therapist, they would say you're pretty good, you have really good movement in the arms, we wouldn't, even if you wanted to participate, at that point, you would just be too good for the study, right? There would be no benefit for you to participate. So it's not only age, there are other things that we exclude for as well. Yeah?
I take a few brochures because I work for a Dancing Wheels company, and
Yes.
we also have a school, and there's kids in the school that only have the level of function.
That'd be great.
that
We'd
you're
appreciate-
referring to, so
we'd-
I can refer the information as well.
Passing out our information would be great. We're trying to engrave ourselves more into the spinal cord injury community. The study is very new, so we have experience with stroke as well. Dr. Plow has experience with stroke victims as well, so we're getting a little bit more involved with the spinal cord injury community, so any way we can do that would be great, so we appreciate that. I'm going to leave these up here for now, and I'll be sitting over here at the end if anyone wants to come chat. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Last but certainly not least, we've had a full meeting tonight. We have Jean here from the Cuyahoga Valley National Park to kind of tell us things that we can get involved with them.
Good evening. As Maggie said, my name is Gene Stepanik. I'm a volunteer with Cuyahoga Valley National Park. My background is actually in the building trades. I was an electrician and did that for 15 years. Became a apprenticeship instructor. Taught 5 years of apprenticeship for the National Electrical Contractors Association and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Eventually I became the training director, did that for 15 years. Semi-retired, went to work for Cuyahoga Community College. Put together a pre-apprenticeship program for them. Managed the program and taught it for 2 years, and then I hit 62 and that was it, I'm done. So now I spend majority of my time really, down at Cuyahoga Valley volunteering there in different capacities. The first thing I did was become a hike assistant. And I did that while I was still working. And then I went on to do some of the special events. The one ranger there, Pam Machuga, she can find things for you to do without a problem. I also do a thing called Rail Rover, Wildlife Watcher, Speakers Bureau, Park Promoter, and whatever else they throw at me. So I have this problem of saying no. I can't say no. They ask me to do something, I go, yes, and next thing I know, I'm doing it. But I love the park. If you see my license plate, I'm kind of at a disadvantage to hiding in the park. My license plate is CVNP, Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So it's obsession I have, really. The historical aspect of Cuyahoga Valley, it started out as a national recreation area in the last few days of 1974. It was a little tough to get through Congress, but Congressman John Cyberling and Ralph Regula circled the wagons with all the reps from Ohio and the 2 senators and got it pushed through. At the time, the Secretary of the Interior was a little reluctant to have this type of national park. So it sat on the President's desk until the last 3 days of 1974. Ralph Regula and Ray Bliss, who was a past chairman of the Republican National Committee, kind of twisted President Ford's arm a little bit and got it signed into law, December 27, 1974. In October of 2000, it was redesignated as a national park. So when something's a national recreation area, people, what are they going to do, have a couple swings there, or what are they going to do? No, it's a lot more than that. Change the name. If you saw the attendance at Cuyahoga Valley, in 1 year's time, it spiked. At one time, we were the 7th most visited national park. And we were in the top 10 for quite a few years. In the last 4 years, we kind of got nosed out a little bit. So we've dropped down to 13th most visited national park. And in the last 2 years, we added 2 more national parks. The one in St. Louis where the Arch is, and there's a courthouse there, and what they did is they joined the 2 together, made a national park out of that, and then most recently, Indiana Dunes became a national park. So that's a little history of myself and Cuyahoga Valley. This year has been a special year. few things happening. One thing was a celebration of 50 years. Anybody know what that celebration might have been? The last fire on the Cuyahoga River. Yeah, the river that burned. That's one of those things that when people think about Cleveland, hey, they had the burning river. Matter of fact, how many of you have seen the movie Major League? Don't be afraid to hand it. Yeah. The song for the movie was written by Randy Newman, and well, one part of the lyrics of that song goes, "You can, the Lord can make you tumble, the Lord can make you turn, the Lord can make you overflow, but the Lord can't make you burn. Burn on, big river." So that's a theme song for the movie Major League. But when the river did burn, the last time it burned, in 1969, June 22nd, 1969, there weren't any fish surviving between Akron and Cleveland in the river. None. Zero. If you've seen pictures of what the river looked like then, all of the stuff that was just dumped into the river, especially from the steel mills and refineries, and then going into Lake Erie, it was a mess. And you know, people started saying, maybe we should clean this up. It's burning. Let's do something about this. And actually, a year before that, Mayor Carl Stokes had a issue on the ballot that passed with $1.5 million to help clean up the river, even before that last burning. So Cleveland was proactive with that. Now we had to go upstream and take care of some of that other stuff coming out of Akron and Kent and other places upstream. They did. Akron's under a court order now. They're doing, I forget how many billions are going into the project they have going. But they had a tunnel underneath the city for water retention. And that tunnel was just completed it's about 8 months ago. So now they're doing all the ancillary work for that. It should be completed by 2024 completely. And that's going to make a big improvement on the river. The other thing is removal of dams on the river. Two are going to be coming out, one this fall, and another one should be done by 2024, which is the Gorge Dam on the Akron-Cuyahoga Falls border. The river came back in the mid-'80s. We had great blue heron formed a colony on the river just north of Route 82. And that was a major thing because what do heron eat? Basically aquatic things. Fish, number one, frogs, and they'll get into some reptiles, snakes, and stuff like that. So now we got a river coming back. The next thing to come back were the bald eagles. So they nested there. Actually, they nested where the herons originally nested. The herons didn't hang around too much after that because the little baby herons made tasty little morsels for baby eagles. So the herons moved out of there. They found another spot, really good spot up on the hill from there. The next thing to come back, now that was in 2006, the eagles came back. Next thing to come back were river otter. Now you got to have enough fish in that river and ponds and everything else to feed all those critters. It's amazing how much food a colony of herons can eat. Typically a colony of herons is somewhere between 70 to 140 nests. Now figure 2 fish per critter per day. Okay, each heron can eat 2 fish a day. A typical nest is 2 adult herons, 3 immature herons, hatchlings. So that's 10 fish a day right there. Times 70 to 140, that's a lot of fish. Now they're in a nest for 2 months. Wow, that's even more. So this is how that river's come back. Depending on the section of the river you're at, it's somewhere between 40 to 70 species of fish in the river. So that's a little background as to why we've got that park, the improvements that has helped make in the area. And I'll show you a little take on our national park system in total. job that Ted so did with that. Pretty impressive. And I get kind of choked up every time I see that part of the presentation. That was the second part to it. But I'm gonna not show that. I put together a presentation just for this group. What I did, I spent a couple of days going from the north end of the park to the south end of the park and trying to capture everything that would be accessible and how it's accessible. You'd be surprised the pains that you know, the Park Service does go through to make things accessible to everyone. And unfortunately, I only have 2 of these. And that's all that exists in the park. I went down there today, I said, hey, I need some meeting your special needs pamphlets. Well, check in the basement, okay? I went down there, there was one which was taped to the side of a box that it used to be in.
Is
So,
that something that you may be able to Google?
you can get this online.
Perfect.
Yes, yeah. Well, what you do is go to nps.gov/CUVA, and all our pamphlets are available online. However, I do have a few of these, Park for All People, so if anybody's interested in that. But I've got plenty of maps for everyone. Take 1, 2, or 3. Valley guides, unfortunately, our new Valley Guide for the next quarter was supposed to be out this week, probably come out Friday. But this is 2 more weeks left on this one, or a week and a half. But this will give you an idea of the things that you can do in the park. There's a lot of great things from concerts to nature walks. The other thing is, these can be had in large print. All I have to do is, the number is in here to call for that. Also on the back, there's places to go. So these are kind of the highlights of the park. Things you'd want to see, like Rainy White Falls, the Canal Exploration Center. We're having a new visitor center, as I mentioned. We have a new visitor center being open the end of October. And right now they're working on the parking lot. The buildings are done. And it's going to be in the Boston Mills area, right next to the tracks. They've done an outstanding job. It's absolutely gorgeous what they've done with them. All our buildings that have more than 1 floor have elevators. So, yeah, again, we'll have an elevator. What they're going to do with the current visitor center, which is Boston Star, that's kind of up in the air right now. They have a canal boat building display there, which is really excellent. And I hate to see that just tossed on the side.
Could you say that website again, nps.gov/?
nps.gov/CUVA, Cuba, okay? And that'll take you to the Cuyahoga Valley section of the NPS National Park Service website.
Perfect, thank you.
A lot of information there. And you can access any park in the country from there. Not only parks, but also the monuments and battlefields, memorials, things like that. In Ohio, we do have 8 National Park Service sites. 1 national park, the rest are usually historical sites. And 1 monument, which is the Perry Victory Monument in Quid Bay. Okay, for the second hour of my presentation. have any questions at any time through the presentation, feel free to ask.
Got a slow winner going on here.
How many of you have been to Cuyahoga Valley? Okay. There's certain areas of the park, and that accessibility, you know, just because of the lay of the land, would not be accessible. So that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration.
Just exit out of
Okay. This is the northern end of the park, Canal Road. You'll see the sign as you're coming in. Just past Rockside Road, and you'll see the welcome sign there. And this is Rockside Station. And I don't know why the picture's so fuzzy, but when I try to print it, that's what happened. You can see that everything's pretty much level. This is the walkway to the boardwalk to get out the train. And this is our ADA car on the railroad. The railroad actually predates the park by 2 years. They started in 1972. The park will officially in 74. Yes, sir.
Do you still got a call ahead for them to switch out the train cart for wheelchair accessibility?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because before you had to.
Well, it depends on if it's a group, yes. Okay, individually, no.
Okay.
Okay, now some cars, again, these were built back in the late 40s, early 50s. A lot of the cars aren't wheelchair accessible.
Well, the reason why I asked is because several years ago I wanted to do the lining on the rails,
Yes,
and I had to call ahead to make sure they swapped out the cars.
okay,
Because I guess they don't haul that around all the time.
yeah. When in doubt, call the railroad and find out. Because they just have the one 88 car.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have a picture of the interior of that.
Did you wind up going, Don?
Huh?
Did you wind up going?
My date night
Okay, that's the interior, so they can move the seats around to accommodate how many people would be there, types of wheelchairs, things like that. The other thing is an accommodation. If you go there and say you have a wheelchair that they cannot put on the train, they do have wheelchairs aboard that they'll come out to your automobile and in the end. So that's another thing that they do to accommodate.
Restroom availability?
Yes, the restroom is actually right here. Just go right around the corner here in full ADA restroom. Yes, yes, sir.
One more question. Do they tie us down, or are we allowed to free roam?
I tell you,
If they were smart, they'd tie you down.
I'm pretty sure you're locked in because should the train have to make an emergency stop, which happens from time to time, normally it's because there's a tree across the tracks. It's amazing how many times a year, a month, actually, a tree will fall across the tracks. So they get out with chainsaws, cut the tree, push it aside, and continue on. We are on one ride this last spring, between Peninsula and Akron, there were 2 trees that they had to stop. They ended up an hour and a half behind. So, yeah, made for a tough day for the train people. Now, the people you see on the train, just about everybody's a volunteer. All the people in black uniforms, the trainman, the conductor, all volunteers. This is at the Canal Exploration Center, and as you can see, everything's put at a height that could be reached from a wheelchair. And you can see this is the walkway going to the front of the building. The water fountains throughout the park are made accessible, as are just about all the restrooms within the park. And this is the entrance into the Canal Exploration Center. And should you need extra room, they got double doors. That's one thing they've done on a lot of buildings. If there were just a normal sized door there, what they did, rather than just widen the doorway and hang a different door, they usually put on double doors. Okay, again, here's things, if you need you're hard of hearing or deaf, there are things that you can use there to accommodate that. And that's inside the Canal Exploration Center, or as we affectionately call it, the CEC. We've got more abbreviations for stuff. It's like being in the service. Now this is the layout of the building. And this is all done in Braille. So you can read that, Braille, that, and look at information desk, and if you want to know where that is, just find it, it'll be right there. And in Braille right there would be the indication that it's where the information desk would be. Here's the elevator at the Exploration Center.
This building is where now, Ken?
Pardon?
This building is where, down at Boston Mills?
Canal Road and Hillside.
Hillside.
Yeah. And you can see here, because there's a change in elevation there, it's going to be a 1 step down. There is a ramp available to come through there. On the second floor, the elevator is right here. So you go up there and into the exhibits. And all the exhibits, again, are reachable. Okay? You should have no problem reaching or reading any of the exhibits. A couple more examples. And also there's, this is a speaker right here, a handheld speaker, and you just push the buttons on the console, and I'll tell you a story about the canal days in Cuyahoga Valley. This is something that just started last year. They just installed these last year. More tactile type displays. So here's a full-size mule that they used to pull the canal boats. Typically they have 2 or 3 mules pulling the canal boats. And right here is a kind of a miniature of it, so walk up to it, feel what it's like, which would be a miniature replication of the full-size mule here. And then right here, there's a little label there, and Again, that's in Braille. Kind of hard to see it, but yeah, it's a Braille part. This is a bridge over to the railroad station at the Canal Exploration Center. There again, it's totally accessible. However, that's more or less for more like the biker board things. But if you are on the train and would like to go to the Canal Exploration Center, and you got on, say, at Peninsula or Akron, rather than sitting on the train for the layover of a half hour, you can get off the train and go over to the Exploration Center for that half hour. And they do have the ways of putting wheelchairs down from the train at the Exploration Center. This is Brecksville Station, and a popular bike aboard spot, also a kayak aboard spot. We now have kayak aboard. So you can take a bicycle one way on the train and then bike back or vice versa. Well, kayak, yeah, typically going to go upstream and then come back downstream. So this would be just before the dam on the river. So you can put your kayak aboard and take it to Jade. Boston Mills isn't accessible this year, but all the way to the Peninsula and kayak back. Again, some of the tactile displays. Here you see an eagle feasting on a fish, which is probably a carp. Again, this is in Braille here. Show that. Okay, so right there. And these life-size displays that they put in, I don't know why they use a muskie. Chances of a muskie being in the Cuyahoga River are kind of slim right now. Northern pike, yes. Muskie, no. So evidently a fisherman didn't design this display. So there it is again in Braille here. The other thing is audible devices. This you just crank, and you don't have to crank real hard. Just at an easy pace. Crank it. It turns a little generator in there, and you push the button, and it'll tell you a different aspect about the river restoration at that point. We've got 3 of those within the park. And for people who are hard of hearing or deaf, there's a thing they can read. This is the bridge going over from Brecksville Station over to the tow path. Again, totally accessible across there. These are the accessible spots in the park. They're patrolled very closely by our law enforcement rangers and the interpretive rangers too, and volunteers. So if we see someone who should be parked there, we call our law enforcement rangers, and they come in and take care of business. Zero tolerance. You don't get a warning on these spots. They do get warnings for other things, but not for that. This is leading up to our visitor center, the Boston Store Visitor Center. Again, this would be coming from the parking lot and right up to the door. This is the elevator community visitor center. And this is Trail Mix Store. Trail Mix Store is operated by the Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. That's the Friends Group. It used to be called the Cuyahoga Valley National Park Association at one time, and they changed the name back in actually The new visitor center is just a little ways down the street, and a little westerly from here. The Conservancy raised the money for the new visitor center. They were shooting for $6 million. They fell a little bit short. Had a benefactor step up and close the gap, and actually surpassed the gap. So they had $6.5 million to put into the new visitor center. And that was all raised by the Conservancy. No public money went into it. Okay, it was all done with donations. So your tax dollars are safe. And this is the trail mix store again in Boston. This is a smaller store, seasonal. It's only open from April till October. The big trail mix store in Peninsula is open year round. But here you can see, if you come across the street, the visitor center is over here right now, the current visitor center. So you can actually come across here and down that slope to the trail mix store. This is Brandywine Falls, the most visited spot in the entire park. This is the view from just in front of the restrooms. The parking lot's over here, and then there's a ramp that goes down this way to the boardwalk. This is there's a few picnic tables in that area. If you notice the way this picnic table is done, it's got an overhang here, so you can pull a wheelchair up to it and sit right at the table. Now all the picnic tables within the park are either this way or a little different way. I'll show you on another view of a little different table. But these are made from old milk bottles and pop bottles and stuff like that. It's an entirely plastic table, recycled material. This is the entrance to the boardwalk to Brandywine Falls. A little look down the boardwalk, in the corner here, down. Get to this point now, there is a stairway going down this way, so that area would not be accessible. However, continue down the boardwalk this way, and that'll take you right in this area. Turn this corner right here, and that's the observation area above the falls.
No,
So this is what you'd see.
not yet.
What's the name of that falls again?
Pardon?
The name of the falls again?
Brandywine Falls.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the most visited spot in the entire park. On weekends, it's tough to get a parking space there. And this is a view of the falls. It's the second highest waterfall in Ohio at 65 feet. The highest is in Hocking Hills, which is Ash Falls, but our claim to fame is ours doesn't dry up. Ash Falls does. And if we can get this here we are in Peninsula. This is lot 29. Again, from the parking lot here. There's 4 accessible spaces in that area. Interesting thing to see here is actually this lot. This is probably the best preserved block on the entire Ohio New York Canal. You can walk right into this or wheel into it. about this particular lock, there was an aqueduct that came across the Cuyahoga River right there. To the lock, to lower the boat or raise the boat there, and the boat would continue on. So it changed sides of the river there. The canal went from the west side of the river to the east side of the river. Again, a tactile display. This would be the canal boat inside the lock. This would be the aqueduct going across the river. So they would lower or raise the boat. Here it's raised, and so they can open these gates, and the boat can continue on going north or southbound, or lower it and open these gates and it would go northbound. And again, this is all in Braille and these little tabs. Opposite that, on the other side, it talks about how these blocks were built, and these are representations of the mason's marks on the stone. So when they were building it, to see how many pieces of stone were hewn by a particular group, they would put their mason mark on the stone. So the boss would come along and, okay, you guys did 3 today, and these guys only did 2. What's the deal? Huh? Keep up with the other guys. This is the restrooms over at Block 29. This is on the east side of the parking lot. Again, an accessible water fountain. And they're putting these in quite a few places in the park. You can have your water bottle, fill it there, it's filtered water then, or just drink right from the fountain. Again, this is wheelchair accessible. This is the railroad station in Peninsula. Got the ramp going up here, so you can go in there and get your ticket, come back down, and wait for the train. And this is the trail mix store in Peninsula, again, run by the Conservancy. At the entrance to the store. And they have nice wide aisles in there, so that it's easy to navigate through the store. This is Kendall Lake, and one of the fishing spots that would be accessible. So handicap parking is right here, and just go down there, and the pier is right here. Also, the building there, this is the old bathhouse. It's now our winter sports center, and got a ramp that goes up and around. In the wintertime, they usually have hot chocolate on all the time, so nice place to stop in the wintertime. And this would be the fishing pier at Kendall Lake. This is Ledges, going to the Ledges shelter, which is a picnic shelter for the most part. You can rent it for special occasions. The accessible parking is close to the entrance to the pavilion. And that's a picture of the pavilion. The restrooms, again, are accessible. The walkway comes right around. And that's the interior of the restroom. So you can see, got the handrails, also the sink that's there for accessibility. And these are the other tables I was talking about. Notice that there's nothing really in the way except for the pipe right here. You can actually slide in across the seat. And there's actually enough overhang here where you can get a wheelchair. Farm, it's a little farther down the road. This is anybody been to Soleil's Farm Market? It's really good. They have the absolute best sweet corn. Fantastic. And they actually started picking sweet corn like the second weekend of July. So you don't have to worry about being high by 4th of July. It's already being picked. And they do succession planting. Matter of fact, they've got some corn right now that's only knee-high. But again, this is totally accessible. The restrooms, these are the restrooms there. Again, this is one of those fountains with the filter on it, and the wheelchair can move up to it. This is across the street, access to the tow path. So the accessible parking is right here. Go right up. If you go south, this is going to be going south toward the Beaver Marsh, and this will be going north. So if you want a longer journey to Beaver Marsh, Hunt Farm is where you probably start. If you want something a little shorter, it's about, I believe it's about a quarter mile. Start here at the Ira Road parking lot. Now, here's the exhibit they have there, which is, again, one of the tactile exhibits showing a beaver, otter, and a muskrat. And again, there's a braille tag on that. This is the connector over to the tow path from the parking lot. And this is going along the tow path just before you get to the boardwalk through the marsh. And this is the observation area at the marsh. I spent part of my morning and part of my afternoon there today. It's a little warm. The thing is, you never know what you'll see there, especially going into migration periods. In the spring, the migration, it's unbelievable what shows up, and the same thing in the fall. Last fall, I got a really nice series of pictures of 2 swans coming in for a landing. So I just took them in succession. I got, I think, 6 pictures of the swans. So, as a matter of fact, the one picture will be coming up. But again, tactile displays. This is a average size painted turtle. See how it feels, what it's like, and again with braille. And also a flip booklet here about what's in the marsh. Okay, right here, that's a green heron. So that's something that you might get to see. Unfortunately, the lighting was opposite the trees, so just have a kind of a silhouette of the heron. My absolute favorite waterfall right here, the wood duck.
Is that real or is that real?
Yeah.
Or is that a decoy?
No, these are the real critters. This is a male wood duck. This is a female. And this is an intruder. That's a blue-winged teal. And he was harassing those two. He would not leave them alone. Everywhere that those two would go, that teal would follow. But if you...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What's the best time to see frogs?
Frogs, anytime.
Anytime?
Yeah, frogs are out all the time. Turtles are out all the time. Now, if you want to see a beaver or the otter, okay,
I just want
you'd
talk
have to
about
be there
frogs.
sunrise or sunset. It's the best time. But yeah, frogs, yeah, just about any time. And the frogs you'll see will be, they're called green frogs. Now, I'm not being a wise guy. That's the actual name of the frog, the green frog. Okay? But there's bullfrogs there and leopard frogs.
Do they talk a lot?
Depends. In the evening in the spring is when you're going to get most of the noise, because that's when they're mating.
I'm gonna go talk.
So it is kind of getting late, if we could start wrapping up.
Just a couple more.
Okay.
Oh, a couple more. Here's the swans I was talking about. And this is the covered bridge, again, totally accessible. And Horseshoe Pond, this is the other place for fishing. And actually, I would suggest this over Kendall Lake. Real good spot here. Not a whole lot of people go there, so that's why it's a pretty good spot.
Is that off of Riverview Road or what?
Major road off of Riverview. If you're on Riverview southbound, Major road comes in at the tree farm, and it's like behind the tree farm. Matter of fact, the tree farm trail starts there. This is Stanford House. You can rent by the room, you can rent the whole building, let people have their family reunions there. And right here is the accessibility ramp going up.
Still use that for a hostel?
It used to be the American Youth Hostel used to operate it, and now the Conservancy operates it. And there's a full kitchen there and everything, you can have things catered there if you like. And that's it.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question
Yes.
before you answer.
Okay.
All right, I know it's been a long meeting, longer than usual, so thank you for sticking with us. It's been a lot of information, lots to go see and do. Just a couple of announcements. Mark Richards, who is an ambassador with the Triumph Foundation in Southern California, is looking for travel stories, pictures. He submitted a proposal to the American Institute of Architects to present a seminar at their May 2020 convention, and he's asking for travelers to share their stories, their pictures, their videos, the positives, the negatives, the good, bad, the ugly, so to speak. So if you have pictures or a story, you can send them to me or ask me for his email address, and you can send them directly to him. A study that I'm doing for kind of not really the model systems, but helping out Mount Sinai is doing a iPad. I just lost my train of thought here. Floor plan of your house. Creating your floor plan on an iPad using a laser to measure, to look at the differences between our standard way of doing like home evaluations for modifications and this way, which one's better, which one's more accurate, things like that. I'm looking for 2 more people to take an iPad home to do their floor plan. We pay you $50 to do it. So if you're interested, let me know. I can get you set up with that. Hand cycles are ready to go to borrow. If you're interested, get a hold of Jeff. If you need his contact information, let me know. I can give that to you. The Metro Health Spinal Cord Injury Forum is coming up in September. It's on the 27th. I did have a couple flyers somewhere in the room. There they are. That's what they look like anyway. So I only printed out 10. So if there aren't any more, we can take pictures, or I can print more off, or whatever.
Is there a program, anything about the program?
Like the agenda for it?
Yeah.
Nothing finalized yet. No, I'm just, here's the forum and the number to make your reservation to come. They are all set up already. And our last Blossom event for the year is on the 31st of this month. Jeff could not be here with tickets, so if you're interested, you'll have to let him know to mail you one or mail you a set of tickets. But they are showing Empire Strikes Back while the orchestra plays along with the movie. We saw I'm not a Star Wars person, sorry, don't get mad at me, but we saw the first movie last year. It was great. It was a lot of fun, even for non-Star Wars fans. But from what I understand, this is the second movie in the however many. So that's on the 31st. Last I heard, we still had like 10 tickets left. If you're wanting to get more involved in this chapter, let me know. I would love some help setting up speakers, sponsors, running the meetings, behind the scenes stuff. I don't really know what that means, but anything, I would love people helping. And next month, Maximum Accessible Housing of Ohio will be here to do like a under 100 type of presentation, so things that cost under 100 to help modify your home. Don't quote me on that, I could be misreading. So that should be a good time if you're able to come. Just like every meeting, we live stream, so if you're not able to come and still want to participate, our Facebook page will have the live stream as it's happening, and then I save it to the page so you can view it afterwards. So check that out, give us a like, and I think that's it. So if there's anything else, let me know. Otherwise, thank you. Oh, one more thing. There was a sign-in sheet over by the food. If you've been to a meeting before, all you have to do is put a check mark. If you have not, name and email would be great. If you don't want to give me all of your information. And then I will add your email to our email list so you get updates about events and meetings. Now I think I'm done. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you guys in the future, and safe travels home.